In regulated environments, it's essential to verify that data used for analysis comes from an expected and approved source, and that it was generated using the correct measurement parameters. MyAssays Desktop supports this by allowing you to configure secured protocols that only accept data originating from defined sources, for example, a specific instrument running a specific measurement method. This is the second video in a series. In the first video, we demonstrated how the process works, and in this video, we'll cover how to configure the protocol to perform metadata validation. First, let's create a new protocol configured to import this type of measurement data and metadata. I'll open the MyAssays Desktop Explorer and select New Protocol to open the New Protocol wizard. I'll select the My Data is in a file or spread across multiple files option, and browse for and select my measurement data file. On the next step, I'll provide a little bit more information about my measurement data. My measurement data is endpoint, and the detection technology is absorbance. On the next step, we can specify how the data is arranged. In this case, my data is in an 8 cuvette rack format, so I'll select rack and enter the number of samples per rack as 8. On the next step, I'll highlight my measurement data, in this case, the difference matrix. And I'll highlight the matrix name difference as well. Next, I'll select the Configure Metadata Import checkbox and press Next. Here, I'll select the metadata name and current values for device, user, mode, measurement wavelength, and reference wavelength. Next, I'll move through the remaining steps of the new protocol wizard, specifying the sample types used in my assay. In this case, I'll use a simple layout comprised only of unknowns, specifying the layout for this assay, and here I'll use a dynamic layout filled with unknown samples in Singlicate. And on this next step, we can review the measurement data and metadata imported. And if we check the Automatically Launch this protocol when a new measurement file is detected via folder pull option, we can go ahead and configure our automated workflow using folder pull. Again, this is covered in more details in the below videos. But briefly, the first field is the folder that will be pulled for the addition of new measurement data files. The default is to use the folder currently housing my imported data, which is my measurement data folder, and the folder I'd like to be pulled. So I'll leave this set to the default. The file filter will allow us to further refine which data files should be imported. The default will be to import any new XLSX file appearing in the specified folder. And the last setting will allow us to specify what should happen when a new file is detected. I'll select to launch the protocol, import data, and calculate results. On the next step, we can add a name and optional description to our new protocol. I'll add the name Metadata Import and Validation. And on the last step, we can review our configuration summary and press Finish to launch the protocol. Once our protocol is launched, you can see our measurement data has been successfully imported. Now let's add the metadata validation. We'll do this with two steps. The first step will be to identify the expected metadata values, and the second step will take advantage of the scripting feature to add a ReportPreRender script comparing the imported metadata to the expected metadata values we're going to specify. First, let's add our measurement metadata to the report. I'll open the Properties, Report tab, and in the report tree on the left-hand side of the screen, we can see all the report elements currently included in our protocol. To this point, only a sample table. I'll select Add Element and select to add measurement metadata. This will report all imported metadata on our report. I'll move this element to the top of the report tree so that this item will appear first and add this to a separate sheet named Metadata. I'd like the sample table to be included on its own sheet named Results, so I'll add that to the sheet name field for the sample table report element. Let's recalculate. Now on our report, we can see the results are separated onto two different sheets, Metadata and Results. Next, let's specify the expected metadata values. I want to validate the last 5 metadata values imported: the device, user, mode, measurement wavelength, and reference wavelength, as the dates and file names can be updated for each run, but these metadata values should remain the same across all runs. To do this, I'll use the Properties XML tab. Here, I'll add macros to house these expected values. At the top of the XML, I'll enter the macros element and add my first macro named MetaTest1. Next, I'll add a value attribute and navigate back to my report. I want to include the metadata title first, so I'll highlight the first cell and copy the contents. I'll open the XML tab again and paste that into the value attribute. Next, I want to include the metadata value, in this case, the device serial number, so I'll enter a comma, go back to my report, copy the serial number information, and paste to the value. And I'll close out this macro. Now I'll simply repeat this process for all the metadata fields I'd like to validate, adding a new macro, this time named MetaTest2, add the value attribute and copying the information from the next two cells, separated by a comma. Once I've added all the metadata values, you'll see we have MetaTest 1 through MetaTest 5 with device, user, mode, measurement wavelength, reference wavelength, and their associated values all entered into the macro element. I'll press Apply to apply my changes. The last step we need to configure this validation is accomplished using the scripting feature. The scripting feature of MyAssays Desktop allows you to add additional functionality to your MyAssays Desktop protocols by entering C# code. For more information on scripting, please see the below video. We'll add a ReportPreRender script to compare the imported metadata values from our measurement data file to the expected values we just entered using the XML tab. I'll open the Event Scripts control, and remember, if you don't see this Event Scripts button, select File, Developer, and Enable Event Script Editor. I'll select to add a new event, selecting ReportPreRender from the drop-down box, and leaving the Applies To drop-down box set to this assay. I'll select Create Event. I have the ReportPreRender script already saved as an XML file, which you can download from the below link. I'll copy and paste this information into the XML tab of the ReportPreRender event script, pressing Apply to apply my changes. And now when we calculate our results, we can see the addition of a column to our metadata table reporting a pass or fail designation for the imported metadata. In this case, we receive pass for all of our parameters. Now let's check with a dataset collected by a different instrument, which we know should return a fail designation for the device Spark metadata field, as this serial number will differ. I'll open my second Spark reader and press Start to collect measurements. Once measurements are complete, MyAssays Desktop opens, imports the data, and calculates results. And on the report, we can see the expected failure for the device metadata, as the serial number differs from the expected value entered. If you have any questions about how to configure your MyAssays Desktop protocol to automatically validate imported metadata values based on expected specified values, please email us at support@myassays.com.